From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. If your son or daughter is serious about college athletics, call them at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athletes.
Here we go. It is another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer. We are joined with the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas high school soccer, Coach Rafa. Rafa, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Just enjoying my Saturday. Got some good barbecue in Lockhart and drove back in time.
Some good barbecue, huh? That makes one of us. So, again, for our listeners, thank you for joining us here on Inside Texas High School Soccer. Again, a spin-off podcast series from our collaboration between the 50/50 Podcast and our good friends at the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, along with Rafa, Mr. Harry Austin as well. We're still, yes, for those of you who are still in shock that we did a 6-hour hashtag second season bracketology podcast back on Wednesday. Yes, we're still here. Thank you for all the people that checked up on us. We appreciate that. Quick shout out to our sponsors, our title sponsor, College Promoters USA. They are America's premier college prep program, and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. For those of you in the San Antonio, Central Texas area region, you can find them in the Ventura Plaza Shopping Center here in San Antonio. You can also find more information on them on social media, on Twitter at SATX Recruiting, as well as on Instagram at College Promoters USA. And you can also find out more of what they're about on their website at collegepromotersusa.com. So, Coach, what do you think about the 2 days, man? 2 days into the mayhem. It's just like the NCAA tournament. It's like brackets are busted all over the place. What are your thoughts on just the initial thoughts before we kind of dive in with just the chaos of the first 2 days of the bi-district round?
We're all looking for the playoffs, like I said, especially from the last 2 years. So we're worried about, games being canceled and so forth. So it's kind of like a full-fledged feel real going into the, playoffs. And we had a couple St. Petersburg type of game upsets, and then also the teams are the favorites, especially some from the pound for pound. There's a lot of them took care of business,
right?
And then we got some interesting matchups coming up too in round two. So I'm sure we're looking forward to see some of those.
Yeah, and we'll definitely dive into that. We'll hit on some of our quote unquote bracket busters, some of the surprises, of course. We'll also the powerhouses, some of them that delivered as well, many of them that delivered, and we'll look at just a few, because if not, we could turn this into a 6-hour podcast as well. But just a few of our top area round matchups that we're looking forward to. Again, there's plenty, so no disrespect to, because there's way too many to cover, to be honest, in terms of what we'd like to talk about. But so we're just going to hit on a handful. And then, of course, what we do our thing through Twitter, of course, through social media, but then also probably another follow-up podcast midweek next week, I think, for the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. Is that right, Ruff?
Yeah, we're going to do a recap of round one of bi-district and area round, see what we got right, what we didn't get right for the 6 hours, and look into the maybe some intriguing matchups in those regional quarterfinals for the next weekend, right before the regional tournaments.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, not surprisingly, for the most part, the bracket seemed to do pretty well as far as how we picked where we were leaning. I know we had a couple of disagreements, went a couple of different directions on a couple, but for the overwhelmingly, I think the bracket looked pretty good. But there was a handful in there where I don't think anybody could have predicted those. So, all right. So, but before we get into that, want to go ahead. We're gonna bring in our first guest here. He is Coach Victor Valle. He is the head women's soccer coach of the District 16A district champions, the El Paso Franklin Cougars, and let me correct that, also the by-district champion El Paso Franklin Cougars. Coach Valle, how are you?
That's right, Coach. Good, and you guys? You guys doing good?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, guys, for having me.
Absolutely. So we have Coach Rafa that's joining us as well. So obviously you're coming off of a late night. You had a very late match last night versus the 4 seed out of district. I believe that was 26A, if I'm not mistaken, in the Midland High Bulldogs. What's your thoughts the next day from last night's by district match?
You know what, Coach? It was a great game. It was a great game. Midland came in strong. They're a good team. Last night, just the whole high school setting. I mean, it was perfect. We had cheer. We had the drum line. We had a lot of support from parents, staff, students. You know, so I mean, just that whole mood. It was set for a great match. We had a good game plan that we worked on for the whole week. Girls did a great job on doing it, and I mean it worked out, because at the end we came up 2-1.
Nice. Rafa, you got a question for him, sir?
Yeah, Coach? What some of the things that you prepare for this playoff game against Midland? Like, what's some of the things you worked on to kind of get everything went well for the game plan going into the game?
Yes, sir. So one thing, Coach, that I did see, I was trying to find as much info as possible on Midlands. They have one girl. Her name is Kenzie Hill. She's a D1 player. She actually signed to play a college ball next season. I think it's at some Houston State. I was able to get a few clips, not just on her, but on the team, and pretty much the whole team runs through her. She's the one who sets the whole tempo, who makes the team play. If she is giving space, she will turn and cause problems. She is both. I mean, she can use both legs, right leg, left leg. She's smart. She's technical. She loves to shoot anywhere from the 20 to the 30-yard line. And our whole game plan, was to pretty much just close spaces on her, cut passes to her, pressure as quick as possible, close in our middle, so that way there is no space. And I mean, Coach, the whole game, Coach, I believe she had maybe one shot on goal, and that was it. Our girls did a great job on pressing her the whole game. She had no time to think, to get the ball, to turn. She had no space, and I mean, it was obvious because Midlands, I mean, they're a good team. The only really problem that we got, it was on a few set pieces, and actually that's the way that it scored. It was through a corner kick. But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much our whole game plan, the defensive wise.
Awesome. So you come off of that match, and now your schedule. Tell us a little bit. We know you're scheduled in the area right now to play Keller. What are the details, finalized details? What can you share with us about that match?
So as far as that game, Coach, this game will take place next Tuesday in Midland. Game is set for 4 o'clock. We will take off on Tuesday morning. Buses scheduled to leave Frankton at 7 o'clock. So we should be getting to Midland more so like around 1 o'clock, 1:30ish, more so. Plan is to get to the stadium, get a good seat, um, stay in the shade, hydrate, stretch, and then from there on, play.
So how do you tag between now and then, coach? As far as the plan, do you try to keep the routine as best as possible? Obviously, you make adjustments
Mhm.
as needed, but how do you tackle as far as the maybe the night before the practice, the day before travel, um, anything that you all do? I know we're creatures of habit as coaches and as athletes, but are there anything things that you take into consideration that you try to keep maybe as normal as possible, or maybe or try to minimize the adjustments you have to make?
Yeah, coach. So one thing, coach, that I think might be a um, um, what's the word to use? I guess concern is gonna be the weather. Midland on Tuesday is gonna be about 84 degrees during kickoff time at 4 o'clock. For the whole year, we do practice first period. So
Mhm.
we are not used to a heat for Tuesday's game. So one thing on Monday that we are gonna do is that in instead of having practice at 7:45 as usual, that class period first we're gonna do film, gonna break it up, go over game plan, so forth, and then practice is actually gonna be held at 3 o'clock local time, which is gonna be 4 o'clock Midland time. Monday here, in El Paso is gonna be about 82 degrees more so. So that'll give us a day to at least prep and get a feel of the hot sun on Tuesday. So that's one thing that on Monday we are gonna do differently for sure.
Anything worry you in terms of the travel? El Paso, this time of the year, El Paso teams, they got the frequent flyer miles, right? They're used to traveling the long distances. What are uh, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, coach. I mean, from our high school to the stadium is about a 5 hour drive. It is. It is. So legs get stiff. Legs do also get heavy. Yesterday it was obvious that Milan towards the last 50 minutes they unfelt it. It did.
Mhm.
They started to slow down. They started to press a little bit slower. So it was obvious. So of course, that long trip, it does worry me, especially because we do gotta travel so early. That means that girls gotta wake up at least by 6 o'clock, probably. Pack up, so forth.
Mhm.
We plan to meet at 6:45 at school, leave by 7 o'clock. So yes, not that whole bus trip, legs being heavy, legs feeling stiff. It does worry me. Plan is to stop about halfway through the trip, maybe in Van Horn. Stop there. Girls are going to be able to walk. We'll have a team stretch. um, Good thing about the trip is that I will only take 22 players. So it means that girls are going to be able to have a seat to their own,
Yeah,
maybe stretch, feel a little bit more
right.
comfortable on the bus. And then once we get to Midlands, probably about 1:30 to 2 o'clock, it's gonna be again the same thing. Drink water, get hydrated, again stretch, walk. So hopefully we won't feel as heavy throughout the whole game.
Yeah. So, anything what you can share with us, obviously, Coach, not the game plan itself, but what are your thoughts? So the Keller Indians, right, playing them
Killer,
on
yes sir.
playing them on Tuesday. What are your initial thoughts on that? Obviously, you're going to have your hands full with a very good quality program, but what are your initial thoughts on them?
They're a good team, coach. They're a good team. They're a good team. I was actually doing some stats earlier. They've only lost one game throughout the whole year. In district, they ended up in second place. They won 9 games, lost only one, and tied two. They have a very strong defense. As in district this year, they only got scored on 8 times, and throughout the whole season, they got scored on 11 times. So
Right.
their defense, I mean, it's pretty solid. Good thing though is that on our side in district we scored 48 goals, and overall as of yesterday we scored 75 goals. So offensively, I think we have power. We do. We got I mean, I'm not gonna share a lot of details, because for the game, but I think that'd be a good match overall.
Yeah, awesome. He is Coach Victor Valle, the head women's soccer coach of the El Paso Franklin Cougars, the District 16A. I'm sorry, district champions and by district champions in a victory. They had a by district round. Sorry, by district round victory last night over the Midland Bulldogs. Coach, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
We
you, guys.
again Tuesday
Appreciate it.
you'll be playing versus. Keller Indians on Tuesday at 4 p.m. and that will be in Midland at Grande Communications Stadium. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
All right. Well, hey, Coach, we know you got a lot of game planning to do along with your coaching staff. Get the girls ready. We wish you the absolute best, and thank you for joining us, Coach.
Yes, sir, coaches. Thank you, guys. Good
Have
night.
a good day. Have a good night. Bye-bye. All right, man. What are your thoughts there on Coach's comments?
He looks very awesome, optimistic about going into this game. Like I said, I know he's not going to reveal his game plan, but I'm sure he's going to have something to have the girls prepared for this game because he knows it's going to be a tall task. Any Metroplex team, you're going up against, you got to be prepared, for them because a lot of those teams do have a lot of talent, and and I'm sure he's going to have them ready to go. But Keller's also got a long bus ride too, so. Because that could affect them as well. And then he mentioned about the heat. I did notice last night there was a lot of players getting cramps. So that's going to may come into play. And, make sure drink the Pedialyte, put in the water and get the pickle juice out and, get a good stretch. And, because that turf really does going to make things a little bit harder, during the game. And that could, like I said, like he mentioned, that kind of tipped the scale a little bit also. With the heaviness on the legs, tipped the scale towards the end of the game. So that's what happened with Midland.
Yeah, it is an interesting piece because whether, even for whether it's a club, our club players or non-club players, obviously, is they're, even though they've played in showcases, they've been training, they've been staying active, they're transitioning from, and then obviously the high school season is in the winter. So they're transitioning from this, all these cold months, right? You're training, you're playing late at night in the evening when it's cold. You're almost never under the sun, really, even if you're practicing in the evening. So yeah, so I think that's an interesting piece. But yeah, I mean, so very important to stay on top of that for sure. So, and I know our coaches are keeping their eye on that. But shout out to our athletic trainers across the state because I know they put in a lot of work on that and, just the education piece as well. So, all right, Coach. So let's dive right in. Let's look at, run us through. We look, Thursday right out of the gates, we had our very first match in the state playoffs was boom, an upset. And the very first match that took place in the state. And then it just trickled down from there. It was a just complete mayhem first day. And it was followed up by some more on day 2. So we have the by-district round under our belt. Take us through maybe a couple of your bracket busters as we were building them. Take us through maybe some of those different regions. Doesn't matter the classification on the boy. Let's look at the boys' side first. What stands out to you on the boys' side?
Well, the boys' sides, there were quite a few. The one that really kind of caught my eye was Frisco Riddy defeating Prosper Rock Hill 2-0. That really caught my eye because Frisco Riddy, was like a 4th place team, and they ended up knocking out Prosper Hill, who had a great season, and they were the district champs, and they got knocked off. And so that's out of region, 6A Region 1. A couple other ones. Like I said, we can go to the Valley. Brownsville Pace knocking out our Valley View, who was a state semifinalist last year.
Right.
He ended up winning 2-1. That was a little bit of a shocker there. Other ones we have, for example, they're in the El Paso area. El Paso Pebble Hills. They beat Midland Legacy. At Grande Communications Stadium, and they took away a 1-0 lead, 1-0 win. So that I'm sure that's a good confidence booster for Pebble Hills going into the next round.
Right. Yeah.
And the other ones, I know for some of our picks, Another one that really kind of also caught my eye was College Station. New Caney Porter was one of those pound for pound teams, and they got knocked off by College Station.
Yeah.
And those are just some of the ones I have for the boys side that I really kind of honorable mention. Another one would be like Klein. They defeated Langham Creek, and Langham Creek's like one of those favorites from Region 3. Going to trying to make the state playoffs. I was a little surprised that they were knocked off.
Yeah. That was your next, if I'm not mistaken, your very first and your next 5 to get into the RPI, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Some crazy stuff. And then we had a couple, I know one of the few handful of Saturday matches that we had like today, we tweeted on it earlier today, out in El Paso, right? Bel Air as a 4 seed, which in itself it doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. Right. And in terms of their tradition, their history, their pedigree, taking on the number 1 seed out of District 1-5A in El Paso, Burgess. And Burgess, congrats to them. First time making the playoffs in, I think they had said since the 80s, I think, or something, or winning a district title, I should say. So, and I know, having just come from El Paso, I know where that program was just about 3-4 years ago. So they're ahead of schedule. So, congrats to them. But obviously, another 4 knocking off a 1 in El Paso Bel Air. And if that that's one team out of 2-5A, District 2-5A Bel Air, if they start to figure things out and they get hot, that could be interesting for everyone else in Region 1.
Yeah, and there's some teams that maybe they're the 4 seed. If they were in other districts, they could have possibly been a 1 or a 2 seed. And just there are some of the 4 seeds that are just as good at some of these as these 1 seeds, and that's what we kind of saw some of those. This past 2 days,
right.
Even one, like for example, and I know there was a kind of like one of the last teams to get in the playoffs was Dallas Jesuit. They knocked off Arlington Martin and PKs, and they had to go to overtime, and PKs a couple nights before. So that's just how crazy, a 4 seed can build momentum and not end up knocking off a number 1 seed.
Right. Yeah. It's and that's the thing, when we were going through our marathon of bracketology podcast the other night, like we all knew that they were coming, right? Those 4s over number 1s. It was just so hard to be able to pinpoint exactly which ones they were going to be, because not all districts are the same, and we have to account for that in terms of the strength of schedule, the degree of difficulty by the district, but then also you're trying to gauge the form in which a team is in at that moment, right? Like some are maybe ascending, some are descending, they're peaking at the right time, they're getting hot at the right time. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the girl side in a minute, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's hard to pinpoint, and I think oftentimes, whether it be parents, whether it just be general adults, the people that cover the game, such as ourselves and others, is we have to understand that these are still 14 to 18-year-old, young adults that are playing. A lot of, they feel that pressure. They feel, they take that step to the next step. There's a big difference between season success, district success, and postseason, right? The second season success. That's why we call it the second season. So it's a different animal for sure. So, all right. Any others that you want to hit on, Coach, on the boys' side?
Even 4A, the one that I was really high on this team because they're on the up was Lavernia. They got knocked off by Beeville Jones, which we were surprised about that because I went to go see Lavernia a few times. Like I said, I went to see them. They had a very good squad. I know they were young, but still, the way they played is like, well, this team's gonna go deep, and they were, winning. They won their district title. They were, they went through their district pretty well. No peaks or valleys. They were just basically going up a peak, and sometimes it might, it takes one game to be the bad one. And usually you want that during the regular season, but not in the playoffs. And I guess that must have happened that Thursday night for them.
Yeah.
There in Floresville. So
right. Now, in their case, what do you think? Kind of, you got to see them, you got to cover them closely. I know you weren't at their match last night, but what do you think? What do you think maybe transpired there a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
sometimes it depends on your style of play. And if the other team kind of, and then maybe you got to give credit to Bevo Jones. They may have tried to may force Lavernia to play their style of play, which Lavernia may have not been comfortable with, and it ended up being the result that Bevo Jones ended up getting. So I know with Lavernia they love to touch the ball, a lot of possession,
Right.
who say that Bevo Jones kind of threw them off their game plan, and they made them play their style, and it just kind of basically weren't able to get to do what they normally do, and that happens a lot of the times. When it comes to matchups, you have to kind of put your style on the other team, and if the other team affects your style, then those are the results you're probably going to end up seeing.
Yeah. I think for me, the big surprise is obviously just, I don't know, the ones that I'm really not used to seeing on the boys' side. Excuse me. We talked about, who is it, Hannah and Valley View, right? Both falling. It's just to see it happening this early. To see one of them fall this early is a lot. To see both of them, right, is just, it's pretty. It's not normal. It's pretty amazing. Unfortunate for them, obviously. Congrats on a great season, but yeah. Anyone else on the boys' side, Coach? Before we switch over to the girls' side?
One that you were kind of high on. I remember we were talking to Bracketology was Pornetch's Groves, and they got knocked off by Texas City, which Texas City is not really known for soccer, and they lost in PKs 5-4 after a 0-0 game. Another team that you're also high on was Fredericksburg. They got knocked off by Idea Montopolis 2-1.
Yeah.
Those were really really surprises there, because you have two schools that are not really known for soccer, and they up turn around getting too big. Both teams got big wins,
right,
in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's one of those. I mean, that's kind of one of those where it's, again, hard to gauge, right? But the reality of it is did the moment a lot for those teams? Were they descending maybe in terms of momentum after having played? Sometimes, right? Sometimes that's the drawback of when you're battle tested and play in a tough district, a strong district. It's almost like you're so depleted by the time you get to the end of season, right? Even though you make the playoffs, but sometimes it works that way too. In the process of being battle tested, you can also be significantly worn down, so, and that's not an excuse for anybody. That's just kind of, that's one of the many realities that comes into play here, that as a coach, you have to have that awareness. You have to have that pulse of your team. And then, like I said, sometimes it's management, it's adjustments, it's in-game adjustments, it's halftime adjustments. And then you have, like, we'll talk about it in a minute, one of the games that you were at last night, on the girls' side, right? We'll talk how that transpires as well. So,
and mental focus is another thing, especially like a team that's dominated a lot, to be down a goal or to be down 2 goals, how can, they're not used to that. How are they mentally ready to get out of that hole and turn things around? And that usually is sometimes the case as well, is that they're not mentally ready to try to get out of that quicksand in the game.
Yeah. So before we transition over to the girls' side, Coach, talk to us very briefly. I know I was bouncing all over the place last night, but you were at one location covering 2 exclusive matches. Just really quick, maybe give us a 1-minute synopsis of the boys' match that you were at last night.
Yeah, I did a doubleheader at Gustafson Stadium there at Northside ISD. I did the boys 6A by district with O'Connor versus Del Rio, and then the nightcap was the Harlequin Girls versus Del Rio. As far as the boys cap, O'Connor was the favorite, but they got down early, but they were able to tie the game at the half. They took a lead, but what I noticed significantly, they were making a lot of mental mistakes, especially on the defensive side, not securing balls, especially bouncing off from the turf. And like I said, you got to give kudos to Del Rio. They took advantage of those mistakes and put those in the net. And the last goal they scored on that second overtime, miscommunication in the back, ball plopped there in front of the Del Rio player, and boom, he shot it in between the legs of the keeper and got the win. Same thing with the nightcap. Harlan really dominated that game. Possession-wise, they had at least the ball 90% in that first half.
Right.
And really, Del Rio could not really, for the girls, they just couldn't really muster anything going up top. I did see a little tactical change. I think they added I did see they went to a 4-3-3. So they started, kind of sending balls up, long balls up, and trying to run around those. And they started getting more chances. Harlan just couldn't get anything going, really. And if they did, they were shanking on the balls or just, balls were getting blocked. Then just one little mental error. It was, like I said, on a play, the ball was sent high. The other player was able to get it. She got behind the defender. Defender tried catching up, ends up taking her out in the box, and Dora gets a PK and end up scoring on the PK, and that was the difference. Harlan really should have won that game just by possession, by the play they had, but they just couldn't finish, and Del took advantage of that one little break that they needed, and sending them to the second round. So, and then there's games like that happens.
Yeah,
you dominate and you just make one mistake, and it costs you that game.
Right. Yeah. So, so with that said, let's go ahead. Let's look at these bracket busters briefly before we bring on our next guest. Maybe one or two. What stands out to you on the girls' side? Which are, again, regardless of region, on the girls' side, what are some of these bracket busters before we start looking ahead at the area round? Which ones really got your attention?
Well, the one that we thought was they maybe get eliminated was Flower Mound knocking off the number one team for 6A Prosper.
Mm-hmm.
That was a shocker, and sometimes you can't bet against a state runner-up or the state champs, and so they're not ready to relinquish that title, and they got a big win over Prosper. They got the one goal and they're able to hold on. So kudos to them. Like I said, now that kind of makes them the favorite there in that region because they took down the big dog, and now maybe all those other teams are going to be afraid to play them or real concerned to say, hey, this team didn't really lose much. They may make a run here, and it takes that, like I said, that one big game to make a run to go to Georgetown. Another one that's real significant that I looked at was it in Austin? Austin High knocking off Ronrep Westwood.
Yeah, the Maroons. That was mine. That was mine of the night last night. Yeah, it was so awesome to see them. Obviously, unfortunate for Westwood, of course, but so awesome for that to come to fruition. I know we talked about that a little bit on the podcast, right? But who would have predicted that from Westwood after how they ended that district with Vandegrift in that race?
And then they didn't allow a goal that whole district, those district games, and they allow one, and that was the difference for eliminating them in the playoffs. So, you got to give kudos to Austin High, for not being intimidated, and like I said, I'm sure they took it to them. I'm sure they had a good game plan, and they were able to get that one goal and then kind of weather the storm and pull out a victory.
Yeah. Shout out for sure to, unfortunate. Congrats on a great season, ending significantly earlier than a lot of people thought obviously for the Westwood Warriors out of Austin. But big shout out to Austin High School, to the Maroons for, I think in that area, their district in that area, really easy for them to get overlooked. But so, definitely earned a ton of respect last night and got a lot of people's attention. So shout out to them. Congrats to them. Yeah. So awesome. So, all right. What else we got, Coach? So we talked about them. What else stands out to you? Anyone else?
Some other kind of surprises, and And this one we discussed is that Forney team. We're like, hey, this Forney team might do some damage, and they end up getting blown out by Red Oak for nothing.
I know.
That was a surprise.
Yeah.
That was a big surprise there. And Forney had a great season, and Red Oak took it to them. And the other ones that kind of look around, the Portneches girls too. they didn't deliver. They got knocked off by Manville from Alvin. That was another surprise there. Foray, Burnett, one of the youngest programs, knocks off China Springs. Kudos to them. Congrats to them. I said, I'm sure they're excited to get next round. And we thought maybe China Springs might have had a little more. Another one is a Vider defeating Hargrave.
Right. Yeah.
Vider's not known for soccer, especially on the girls' side, and they had a big win. And then the one like I mentioned we saw early on Thursday morning, the one that kicked off everything was Burgess knocking off Del Valle.
Wow. Yeah, I know that one. That one got me for sure. I think the other interesting thing, you kind of on both sides a little bit, but on the girls' side, it was interesting because it was teams that were upset last year, right? They were kind of being watched closely. Powers, if it would happen again, right? So, such as big shout out to Flower Mound, because the reality of it is that's again just like we talked about on the boys' side with Bel Air. That's not your prototypical 4 seed, right? And the defending state champion, and they did it to Prosper again. They did it to him once again. Except a round earlier this time. So big shout out to them. Congrats on a great season, also ending much earlier than expected for Prosper as well. But then also you look locally right here in the San Antonio area, you look at some of the teams we were looking at, particularly, like Smithson Valley, right? The Smithson Valley girls, is like, were they gonna, go undefeated and then lose? Were they going to be upset in the bi-district round or not? That's what some people were looking at, right? So and kudos to them. They got the job done yesterday against a tough Madison squad. So congrats to the Rangers, and congrats to Madison on a great season, San Antonio Madison. But so yeah, I mean, a lot of great stuff on the girls' side. Anyone else, Coach, before we go ahead and bring in our next guest?
Yeah, the one that here in our region, Region 4, Davenport, knocked off of Georgetown Gateway, Gateway had over 20 wins. That really impressive record, and Davenport ended up winning that game 3-0. And then that goes back to what district you play in as well. That district where Davenport has Wimberley, has Bernie, Canyon Lake. It's in Fredericksburg. It's a very tough, brutal district, but those type of districts prepare for these type of games, and right. I guess Georgetown wasn't, Gateway wasn't prepared, and Davenport wasn't intimidated and took care of business.
Yeah. Big shout out to Davenport Wolves and getting their first ever playoff victory. Again, this is a program that is in year 2 of existence. So pretty phenomenal stuff. Big congratulations to Davenport as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and bring in our next guest. He is Coach Michael Strong. He is definitely no stranger to this show. We've had him on here a time or two, and he is the head boys soccer coach, head men's soccer coach of the defending state champion Bernie Greyhounds. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you guys for having me back.
Absolutely. You're welcomed here anytime. You got the VIP. We could put you up in the VIP suite there. So
I appreciate that. I'll take you up on it.
All right, Coach. So talk to us a little bit briefly. Thank you for joining us, but tell us a little bit, coming off of your bi-district round. Obviously, they're, gigantic target on your back, right? Defending state champion. Everyone's gunning for you. You're the champion until you're either, standing as the last person to win on the last game of the season and repeating, or until you're knocked out, one or the other, right? So you kicked off your campaign, your second season campaign last night. Tell us about your match, your bi-district round match.
Yeah, Austin Achieve is a not a traditional 4 seed. We talk about districts and the parity between different districts, and I tell you what, that Austin district is absolutely stacked. I mean, if it weren't for the last minute 30 seconds of their game against Taylor, we're playing Taylor first round instead of Austin
Yeah.
Achieve. I mean, that's how tight that district was. Um, they had wins over Giddings, over Salado. They tied
Mm,
Eastside Memorial twice, who's the number 1 seed in that district. So that was not a 4 seed at all, and they didn't play like a 4 seed.
right.
It was 1-0 at halftime. We missed some chances. They had a chance. They had the best chance that we've had against us all year, and we were able to weather the storm. In the second half, we calmed down and we put 3 in first 10 minutes of the second half and kind of blew it open. But it was a competitive game, and that Austin Achieve team, well coached, and they really got after it. They competed hard. They had great players. It was a fun game, and it was a really great game to be a part of. Since we had wrapped up district so early, we really hadn't had a meaningful. Obviously, you always want to win. You always have pride in winning, but there was nothing on the line for the past week and a half, or I'm sorry, past 2.5, 3 weeks. So having something on the line really felt good. And I think the boys really responded well in the second half.
Rafael, you got anything for Coach?
Yeah, Coach. What type of game plan did you have going into this game? Like as far as talking with the boys, what were you really want to focus on going to the playoff game?
You competing, go compete. Win every first ball, every second ball. No ball can bounce. You got to press. No entry passes. Don't let them touch the ball. And that's something we preach here, Bernie. Every single day, every single game. And the field we weren't ready for it. I didn't realize that Marble Falls was only a yard wider on each side than the football sideline. That was a fun surprise when we got there.
Yeah.
And Austin Achieved, their field is exactly the same. So that kind of that knocked us off our game. And I thought we made good adjustments the second half though, when we decided, hey, we're not going to be able to play down the middle. We're not going to be able to play the beautiful game. Let's play direct. Let's play diagonal balls. We'll get in behind the defense. We'll cause some problem there. And I think we found our way into the game, but our initial game plan was not a good one. That's on me as the coach, and it did not work out well with that narrow field. I tell you what.
Yeah. So how did you feel, Coach, going into yesterday, right? Obviously, your boys at this point, they're seasoned veterans. They have that one massive year last year under their belt, but with nothing on the line for the last 2 weeks, and then boom, it's like back to like 0 to 100 yesterday. How did you prepare for that, knowing that there was going to have to be that transition, that switch?
Yeah. Obviously, it starts with me scouting and going over to Austin and seeing all these great teams play, and then relaying that message to the guys and making sure they understand, who the dangerous players are. And for me, I think it gives me. I don't know about the guys, but it gives me a sense of, it calms me down knowing that at least we know who they've got, what they can do, and I can relay that to the guys. But kind of to your point, I mean, it was frenetic, and my assistant coach, Coach Hogan, best assistant coach in the state, by the way. He's reading a book, and something that came across was focus. And focus is not thinking about yesterday, not thinking about tomorrow, but living in the moment. And that's something that we're really trying to work on, and is being focused. Because you always hear, hey guys, got to be focused. But if you ask someone to define what is focus, what's the definition of focus?
Right.
So I think that was really, really good on Coach Hogan's part to bring that to the guys. And again, I think it's helping calm the guys down. And like you guys talked about on the podcast the other day, the pressure's off us. We won state last year. Outside of 3 guys on the team right now, the rest of the guys all won state. We already got that ring, so we can go play with reckless abandon and without pressure, because the hard part's winning state. So now we can go out there and just play our game and calm down and go have some fun.
Yeah, I love that mindset, Coach. I think, some teams would respond to that a little differently. They would maybe feel the pressure of an immediate repeat, right? Or they're getting asked that all year. So I think that's, again, kudos to you, kudos to that staff, because that's what that's what makes Bernie Bernie, right? That's what makes the Greyhounds in terms of just mentality. So I love that mindset. That's awesome. So big takeaways besides the size of the field, Coach. Big takeaways from last night that you feel will help propel you forward and get you ready for the next round.
I'm a big message guy, and we got the target on our back and we embrace it. It's on the front, it's on the back, it's on our forehead. And my message to the guys was let's go send a statement to the region. Again, this team has beaten 2 teams who are going to the second round in Region 3. They tied the first place team in Eastside Memorial twice. They were a minute 30 from getting second place in their district. So my message to the guys was let's go send a message to the region then and let them know that the Bernie Greyhounds are still the team to beat. And I think the boys responded well. I've got the best guys in the state, second to none. And they responded well. And again, I think the results showed that last night against a very good Austin Achieve team. So that was kind of my message is let's go send a message.
Right, man, you got me hyped up, Coach. I'm ready. I still got some eligibility. If you want to,
come on, hey, let's go. Come on to Brent. I got a purple shirt for you.
Yeah. All right. So talk to us. So now, looking forward, right? The area round. You've got the Pleasanton Eagles, correct?
Yes,
right.
Sir.
You got so we know you have them Tuesday, but talk to us a little bit about the details and what's going on there.
Yeah, we got Pleasanton. It's going to be Tuesday at 7:00. It'll either be at Bernie High School, which would be amazing to have a home playoff game, or it'll be at Pleasanton High School, which is fortunately it's not too far away. Obviously, our district we travel about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, so it'll feel like a district game. But I tell you what, that Pleasanton team, pretty defensive minded, finished second in the Lavernia district, play with a deep sweeper. Of course, this is all tournament film I'm looking at. I gotta hopefully find some newer film there. But from what I've seen so far, pretty defensive minded. They beat a Gonzales team that I think is very good. That Gonzales team beat Rockport Fulton last game of district. That's the first place team out of that district again. So not a lot of separation from first through fourth. And so that Gonzales team is a very good team that I think Pleasanton handled. And again, that Gonzales team gave us fits last year. So I'm really looking forward to playing Pleasanton and obviously getting another good test for the boys.
Rafa?
Yeah, going into, like I said, the Pleasanton game. What are some of the things that you kind of want to focus on as far as improving on from the first game to this game?
We've got to start better. Again, I think our the first half, and it's always easy to say, we didn't play that well, but because there was only 1-0. But in hindsight, it's not totally fair. But we need to finish our chances and put the game away earlier. You let teams hang around 1-0 at halftime, and anything can happen. I mean, it could have been a 3-4-1 game if we're being fair. Which at that point the game's a lot different and it plays out a lot differently. So my focus for the boys and my message to them is we need to come out and we need to get after them from the very first whistle, and we need to make sure that they understand that they're going to be playing our game, and they got to account for us on both ends.
Yeah. So, Coach, talk to us briefly. So you mentioned this coin flip is going to happen on Monday. So is this going to be like Friday Night Light style? They're broadcasting it there in Bernie, or what's going on? What's the particulars on that? When is it? When will we know the details on that?
Yeah, we got all the TV crews coming from Pleasanton, from Bernie, San Antonio. I think I heard
the 50-50
podcast is
going to be in the house, right?
It's exclusive to you guys, right?
Yeah, we own the TV rights for that.
No, honestly, I've only flipped once. I'm still kind of new to all this. Last year, my assistant athletic director Terry Galt flipped against Gonzales to play Thursday or Friday, and we lost. And that's the only flip I've ever done. I wasn't even there for it, so I'm not exactly sure how it works. I know it's going to happen Monday. Our ADs are kind of leading the charge on that one. I'm just along for the ride.
So there's this theory. Go ahead, Ruff. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I guess any lucky coins?
Yeah, right. Let me go find one. You got one?
Is there a reason why you guys play flipping home and home? Maybe not a neutral site like here in San Antonio. Is there maybe?
My boys wanted to. I asked them. The Pleasanton coach reached out to me. He said, "Hey, you want to flip home and home?" And My mindset's always that, I think we're a very talented team, so why give any team any sort of advantage? But I asked my seniors and I asked the captains, I said, hey, what do you guys want to do? They said, Coach, let's flip home and home. Let's do it. How great would it be to have a home game at, for our senior year? So I said, okay, let's do it then. So, I listen to the boys. I like to get their input and get their pulse, and it's what they want. It's not my team, it's their team. So let's freaking go do it.
Yeah. So let me know, Coach. I got a couple of double-headed coins here. So if you want one, it's got your name on it. So
hey, appreciate that.
Now there is this theory, though. I was mentioning this. There's this theory that I think I don't know. It's still unofficial. I don't know. There has been some studies done on it, and I think it's like a 52-48, 51-49, where you call tails advantage tails because the quote unquote the head side of the coin weighs more, right? So I don't know if you ever heard that before. This is something I just heard a couple of months ago, like maybe a month and a half ago or so, and I was like, I guess I could kind of be talked into that, right? A little bit, physics of that.
I'm a little upset you didn't text this to me. You just said it live on air. So there goes that game plan. Everyone's gonna be picking tails against us now. Thanks a lot,
just win who calls it, just win that part.
Just demand that we call it, right? There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Everybody gets to call it.
Or you flipping for that first.
We're flipping for the flip. Okay.
Yeah, awesome. He is Coach Michael Strong, the head men's soccer coach of the defending state, the 4A defending state champion Bernie Greyhounds. Coach, what are your thoughts on Pleasanton? Obviously, not revealing your game plan, but just general thoughts. They're very respected program. But what are your thoughts as you get ready for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the record speaks for itself in that district. Again, I know Rafa Lavernia kind of shocked us all.
Yeah, we later.
The newspaper.
I knew he was going to get that in there. I knew he was going to get that in there.
No, but my newspaper asked me, who are teams to look out for, and Lavernia was on my list. You can look at it. Bernie Starr, Kerry Barbosa, best media guy in the world. But he I said Lavernia. I've seen their program. I've seen them grow. And so this Pleasanton team, though, they tied Lavernia. I think they're very strong. Again, I think the record speaks for itself. Again, they seem to be a little more defensive-minded. They play with a real deep sweeper. So they're not going to give up a lot of space in behind. You got to find the corners. But I think there's more space on the field than to exploit if they're going to play like that. So I think that's what I love about my team is it doesn't matter how we can react to how you defend us. If you want to jam-pack the middle, fine, we'll play the channels. We'll get to the end line. We'll serve balls. If you want to spread out, fine, we'll go down the middle. We'll slice you up there. And I think that's the ultimate compliment I can give to my boys is that they can play however you defend us, and they're going to take advantage of the weaknesses that are on the field because you can't defend it all. There's no possible way to defend everything. So wherever that space is, my boys will find, and I think that's why I have the confidence in them to go do something special again.
Right. Well, Coach, we wish you the absolute best. Not just hopefully beyond just Tuesday, right? But knock on wood, right? Got to take care of the opponent in front of you first, right? But yeah, we definitely appreciate you being on the podcast before again, joining us briefly, and look forward to covering you. And we look forward to first getting the details from the coin flip, and then we'll go from there.
I'll let you guys know. I appreciate it, guys.
Right, awesome. Thanks again, Coach. Good luck and have a good night.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
All right. What'd you think?
I think they're, like I said, Coach mentioned about having that target on the back, but to have a really relaxed team and just go out there, have fun, and do what you need to do. That's the best mentality to go into these playoffs. Right. And really the pressure also is also on the opponents, because they have to beat you. You're the champ. You have those advantages, kind of on the psyche going in. So, and I think they'll take care of business on Tuesday, whether it's at Pleasanton or Bernie. I think they'll advance, and they're in that original quarterfinal game could be with that Eastside Memorial team that he mentioned, and that's going to be a really good game.
Yeah. And the thing you mentioned in terms of just the great thing about them and how Coach Strong has them prepared is just it's mentality, right? They embrace hey, we're defending state champions, and they're not. It's not an overconfident piece. It's not a cocky piece or an arrogant piece. It's just they just embrace it, right? They embrace it and they say it's like, hey, the pressure is actually off of us. We're just here to play. So that's such a great mentality as well. So we appreciate having him on, and we wish his boys luck on Tuesday, wherever that game is. So, all right, Coach. So we start to transition here. Let's look at we looked at our bracket busters from across both genders, right? Across all classifications. Now, let's look forward, area round initially before we dive into any thoughts as far as some maybe key matchups. What are your thoughts there?
Like I said, some of these teams, like I said, it's like kind of coach. You just got to go play those games and see what happens. And like I said, some of these teams that weren't favored, some end up pulling off. Like you mentioned about Lavernia getting knocked off. They were one of the strong teams, and to get knocked out by Beeville says something. And also the team they played, the Austin Achieve team, really nobody really knew about them. As far as they're not much as far as like a soccer tradition, and to give them a little challenge in that first half, for them to make the adjustments to that game, just says something about this playoffs, that you have to be prepared for anything. Regardless of what district they're playing, you still got to play the game.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, Coach. So lay it on us. Give us maybe let's start over on the girls' side this time. Just top matchups in the area round. Maybe giving us maybe 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you got that you're really kind of looking forward to, and then maybe we'll also discuss some possibilities as far as coverage, because I know I've been getting asked that a lot today already as to where we might be for the area round or beyond. So let's maybe briefly look at that afterwards, but give us some top area matchups.
Well, one of them is going to be a rematch from a regular season game here in Region 4. Is going to be Spencer Valley versus Austin Westlake. And that's going to be at Bob Shelton Field. I think also the boys are playing, but we'll get into that later. But that's going to be a very good game. Can Spencer Valley knock them off again? And I'm sure Westlake's going to be gunning for trying to get revenge for that regular season loss. And I could see this game going into overtime, maybe possibly even penalty kicks. So that's one of the premier matchups there for Region 4. Girls. Another one that also kind of caught my eye. I'm just kind of skimming through here these brackets. Let's see another one. Let's see, trying to get through here. Hold on one second. Another one this season was that Clark Austin High game, and also Clark Austin High's won. Another rematch is the Reagan Girls versus Vandegrift.
Right.
That game last year, Vandegrift basically tore.
Yeah, I remember that. Reagan. It was where Vandegrift kind of found themselves, right?
Yeah,
like it all kind of came together there on that run to the state championship game. Yeah.
And then, like I said, they took a big run there and ended up getting to that. And I know that they have some changes this year, with coachings, and I'm sure whether it was with graduation, but that's one, one game that's going to be interesting. Another one out on region for 5A Region 1 is going to be Amarillo High and Canoteo. Canoteo girls, big win first round. Can they kick the door down, knock off this Amarillo High team that's been a perennial power in the Plains? So that's going to be a key game there for 5A Region 1 for the girls. Other ones, for example, Longview girls versus Midlothian. That's going to be a great game for there in Region 2.
Region 2, yeah.
So you're starting to see some real stacked games coming up. We also have, let's see, I'm just kind of scrolling by here. Interesting matchup here to be the Grapevine Girls versus the Mansfield. Timberview.
Mm-hmm.
Mansfield's been, like I said, they're, they've won some big games. So they won some big games, and this is going to be a big test for the Grapevine Girls. So they can't take them lightly.
Yeah,
as far as
Grapevine is looking very scary right now. I can tell you that they're very scary.
yeah, and they can't look past this game because it's gonna, they still have a big test coming up.
Right.
Another one that's an interesting matchup would be Burke Burnett versus Midlothian. Burke Burnett's got a good program. They could say even though they finished second, but they could surprise Midlothian. San Eli, the girls against Brownwood.
Yeah.
And a lot of the attention goes to the boys team, but the girls can knock out Brownwood. They can make a statement and say, "Hey, we're also we're a team to be reckoned with as well too."
Right. Yeah, and that's been we talked about it last Wednesday, right, in our bracketology podcast, but that's where that program is they've clearly arrived. They've had some success. They're trying to break through that. They're trying to break through the regional quarterfinal round. It's like, can they take that next big step? And rightfully so. It's not that they're overshadowed by the success of the boys program, because the reality of it is if you know anything about the San Elizario community, is that is an athletic department that just builds, it's champions breeding champions, where they're successful in everything they do, so we're really looking forward to hopefully being able to cover them. And really, they would really be a kind of a charm, I guess. It would be a great thing to see them break through and experience that next level of success, because they've been putting in the work. And you can always argue everyone kind of deserves it because there are no bad teams at this point, right? But it's things still gotta break your way as well, in addition to putting in the hard work. So. All right.
Yeah, and there's one that you mentioned at the bracketology that caught your eye for 4A girls, and it's here in our backyard, is the Valde versus Bernie Girls.
Yeah.
The area game. That's going to be a very interesting game because on Bernie, we was one of the favorites in the region, even though they didn't win the district.
Right.
They struggled this year, and you have here a red hot Uvalde team that beat a really tough Gonzalez team in the first round. Can Uvalde knock off a state power and go on to the next round and really make? And if they do knock them off, could they be the Cat Allen from last year?
Yeah.
That's what when they knocked off Bernie. They knocked the door and they end up going to the state championship.
Right. Yeah. And could this be, I'm not saying that it is, but could it be, or it has the potential to be, if it plays out that way, could it be a changing of the guard, right? Where Bernie has that pedigree. Bernie's been there, but Uvalde wants that. Uvalde has very strong team. They have a couple of finishers that, that type of setup can get you far in this tournament, right? Because that's really what it is which teams are capable. Any team is capable of being upset on any given night, but which teams are capable of, on their best days, of putting a string of 6-7 wins together, right? So yeah, very very excited to see that matchup as well. Nothing like being able to watch some of these 4A matchups. They're some of the absolute best, So all right. Any others on the girl side, Coach? Before we, I did have one thing as well. You hit on it earlier, but the San Antonio Clark girls getting ready to face the Austin Maroons, which we just mentioned a little while ago. I would not want to face that Austin Maroon squad right now, because Clark's going to definitely have to. We fully expect them to come ready to go, ready to play. But if it's a slow start and you got an Austin High team here that's coming in on cloud nine, high level of confidence, it could be a long night, so very excited, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one plays out as well.
Yeah, another one I have is up 35, I-35, Salado girls versus Giddings girls. You got two quality one that's been the solidified great program for 4A against an upstart in Giddings. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't my power rankings, and this is going to be Giddings, kind of the same thing with Valde. Can they take that step to knock off a team that has that tradition to go on and make a run into, to the regionals and on to the state? And so that's going to be a great game. I did get also info for that Valde Bernie game. They are going to play at Medina Valley on just I'm trying to get the time.
You said that's the Uvalde Bernie, you said?
Yeah, Valde Bernie is going to play at 7 p.m. at Medina Valley High School.
Okay.
So maybe I have to make a little trip out west.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, awesome. So it's good to know. So let's transition over to the boys side, Coach. Maybe 4 or 5 matchups that you kind of deem as top area round matchups across the state.
Well, here's an intriguing game is going to be Hearst Bell, who got by South Lake Carroll against El Paso Socorro. That's going to be, like I said, to me, that's a very interesting game there. Socorro coming off what Felix told us, barely getting to the playoffs. And then they get a big win over the really good Friendship team.
Right.
And
those are sometimes the scariest teams, right? Because they it's kind of like they're already kind of coming. They're peaking at the right time. They're coming in hot, and then all of a sudden they get a little bit more taste of just that, that playoff success, a new shot in the arm of confidence, and then it's just kind of like they're playing loose, right? They're kind of house money, if you will. Like, hey, nobody really expected us to be here. Let's go out there and shock the world. That's how these things kind of happen. That's how these Cinderella stories kind of manifest themselves.
Yeah, so I think that a game, if Hearst Bell had a really tough first round opponent, really tough opponent. It was like a state ranked South Lake Carroll team. How much was that taken out of them? And like I said, and can Socorro catch them? From that emotional game, going into this one. Another game here interesting here is actually the state runner-up, Rockwell Heath, who were able to advance against a Waxahachie team that knocked off Temple in the playoffs. And Temple was one of the favorite, like I said, favorite to go maybe 2-3 deep. Waxahachie knocks them off, and can they pull another rabbit out of the hat and knock off the state runner-up?
Right.
And the state runner-up's been vulnerable this year too. They've had some losses, and if Waxahachie knocks them off, that's a really big confidence booster for them going to the next round. So that's one of the highlights from those, and some other ones we got kind of breezing through here in our backyard. Southwest versus no, that's for sorry about that. That's let me see here. Southwest versus Georgetown. That's going to be that's I think it's a repeat of last year's game that did go to penalty kicks, and this game's going to be in Georgetown, so they're going to have to travel over there. This is Southwest's I guess their first big test since going to the Valley for that tournament that they did, which they did have a loss with Brownsville Veterans Memorial. Right. How can Southwest go into a hostile environment, knock off Georgetown on this game? And so we're gonna find out, for all of the what they've done, can they do it, here, on Tuesday? And other ones I'm seeing here, probably a good one. It'll be College Citizens versus Pflugerville, two teams that were not favored.
Right. Yeah. And here they are in the next round. Yeah. They're
facing each other, and like I said, whoever wins on that game is it's going to big confidence booster moving on. Other games that looking through here, through the Valley. Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial versus Brownsville Veterans Memorial, the Battle of the Memorials.
I know.
So that's going to be a good game too. And then also looking at 4A. Besides, like I said, that Bernie Pleasanton game, there are some good matchups. For example, that Brookshire Royal versus China Springs. I think that's going to be a great game. For Region 3. Jasper with a big upset over state ranked Splendora going to play Scarborough. Is Scarborough going to take them lightly? And I'm sure they're not going to after that. That first round game. Here's another one. Now for the boy side, Salado versus Giddings. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
That's another good matchup for region. For region 2, and then region 1. Kind of looking scene here. El Paso Riverside versus Snyder.
Yeah. Snyder's an interesting one. A year 2 program, right? How does that go? And Riverside, there's less naturally there's less pressure on them this year because a lot of people felt like last year was maybe their big breakthrough year, and they get upset early, and then they graduated a lot of players, and now here they are. They find themselves again in the area around, right? So against a very young, very talented, very, very confident, Snyder team that all of a sudden, you can argue that they have more playoff experience, success experience than a lot of other programs that have been around longer, and they're only in year 2, right? So that has the makings of an interesting match, very interesting matchup as well.
Yeah. And another one that is kind of a world dear to our hearts, Argyle versus Diamond Hill Jarvis.
That's gonna be good. Yeah, that's gonna be a good one.
Diamond Hill made it to the final against Bernie. Here's going to be their first true test. Can they knock off Argyle? And I know I picked Argyle, I think, to move on because I think maybe Argyle might have a little bit more, compared to what Diamond Hill had last year. But if Diamond Hill can win this one, this sets up a possible showdown with another power, would be Midlothian Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to have to run the gauntlet to knock off some quality teams to get back to Georgetown. So, and if you can knock off those pretty much them and maybe even Snyder and all that, now you would turn yourself into becoming one of the favorites to win the 4A title.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, hey, this has been good. Good stuff, Coach. What thoughts looking to Tuesday night as possible, right? We just maybe can give some teasers here, some possible sites as far as coverage. I know I still got to look at that as well. So we might be together. We might be different locations. We don't know yet. But what are some thoughts as some possible games to cover in the area here for Tuesday? As far as I know, I haven't heard of anyone, and I don't see anybody playing on Monday, but we never know. But what are your thoughts as far as this area around for coverage?
Yeah, for me, I'm really now interested in that Valde Bernie Girls game at Medina Valley. So I might head out to that game. I'm still waiting to see kind of what the
and that is when that is Tuesday 7 p.m. at Medina, right? At Medina Valley, I should say, high school.
Okay. A lot of those games are going to be because they're playing a lot of the Austin teams. They're playing halfway, or they're playing in Corpus. I'm still kind of waiting to see what's going to be out there for that's available here in town. But I know that's one kind of locally. I think there was another one. Another probably good game is going to be Bernie Champion Girls versus the Jefferson Girls, and that's going to be at Stadium. So that's a good matchup there. That one's at 7:30 p.m.
And that is where a little teaser here, where the 50/50 podcast might end up on Tuesday night, because I think that is a very intriguing matchup for a number of reasons. I know Coach Carol Walters is going to have her Bernie Champion squad ready to go. I think they're starting to really find themselves at the right time. They play in that brutal district that includes the defending state champion, the Dripping Springs Tigers. And then you got a Jefferson squad there that, they won the district title on the last day of the season.
Case too.
And, yeah. And they, they're very confident, a very fun squad to play. And it's the same thing. It's like if you don't come with the right mindset that day, or you come, just don't bring your A game or start slow, they can make life very difficult for you. So I think that's going to be a very, very intriguing matchup.
And then out of that game, whoever wins that game, there's another intriguing game, and for the winner of the other game, the one that they're going to face, and that's going to be the Southwest Girls versus the Liberty Hill Girls.
Right. Yep.
So you could have any of those combination of the 4 teams is going to be a really good regional quarterfinal game.
Yeah.
Could we see a Liberty Hill versus Bernie champion? I mean, even Alamo Heights did take a Liberty Hill to the limit on PKs.
Right.
Maybe we see a Liberty Hill Bernie champion. That'd be an excellent game.
Yeah. Yeah. And how does Southwest adjust to what will be at this point their strongest, competition they've seen all year? They've blown right past their district. They have a quality finisher that can take them deep into the playoffs. So how do they, are they ready to take that next big step? Because that Liberty Hill squad, obviously, it's part of it is survive and advance, right? Alamo Heights, that's a good Alamo Heights squad that was also trending in the right direction and gave Liberty Hill everything they could ask for. So I feel Liberty Hill is going to definitely be ready to go. So how does Southwest, can Southwest, come in, start fast and make it, make it difficult for Liberty Hill? That'll be interesting to see. How do they adjust to just the pressure? Because Liberty Hill's been there before. They're used, we talked about that pedigree, right? And just having that experience, and the name, right? The name. So I think, again, also the makings of what should be a very, very good area round matchup.
Yeah, and that game will be Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at Lockhart. So you like some good barbecue before the game.
There you go. You should have just stayed there, man. You should have just stayed there. I don't know. Yeah. Awesome. So, Coach, this has been great. This has been awesome. Loved having you on again. This is episode 3 of Inside Texas High School Soccer, where we looked at all the by-district chaos and area round matchups, key matchups, some places where we might be. We highlighted the kind of the surprises, the Cinderellas, the bracket busters. We prefer to call them bracket busters instead of the Cinderellas here. But now, if they go past the area round, then they become Cinderella, right? So so great to see so many awesome just matches take place across the state, across all regions. But also, to the teams whose seasons ended this week, right? Thursday or Friday. Congrats on great seasons, coaches, players, seniors. I know obviously you've given your best, and you've left your programs in better places. So congrats on great seasons to all of these programs across the state whose seasons ended this past week. And congrats to all the teams, all the programs across all classifications whose seasons continue, right? So again, Coach, run us through briefly just the schedule layout for the upcoming week leading into next week.
Yeah, for Wednesday, I think we're going to do a recap. There's San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. We're going to do a little recap. Us soccer purists, we're going to look at the brackets and see who made the grade, who didn't make the grade as far as going to the next round, and then also looking forward to see what intriguing matchups we're going to see in those regional quarterfinals. Yeah. And then who made me thinking, hey, who's going to end up at those regional the following weekend, because they do have a little break after Friday, Saturday. So, who may have the advantage of getting that little break before the regional tournaments, and see, maybe we have to readjust a little bit who are our favorites going into next week as far as making the regional tournament.
Yeah. Excuse me. And that's really how you have to look at it, right? If I'm a coach at any of these programs, you just have to take this. Obviously, you take it one game at a time, the opponent that you have in front of you first, but you're really looking at this as a 1 week tournament, right? Tuesday, area round. And if you can take care of business, then playing Friday or most likely Saturday, right? Where the regional quarterfinals, the window for the regional quarterfinal is this coming Friday or Saturday. And then you won't see the regional tournament, which would consist of the semifinal and the final, until next week, the end of next week, which would be next Friday, Saturday and those are all already set at predetermined locations. Again, so the regional semifinal and the regional final, which makes up the regional tournament, those are at predetermined locations across all regions, across all classifications, which you can find on the UIL website. So awesome. Well, Coach, any final thoughts?
I'm just looking forward to this week's playoffs, the area playoffs. Like I said, we have some intriguing matchups, especially here in San Antonio for us. Like here at the roundtable that we're covering, hopefully we have some representatives from San Antonio to keep on. I know Austin's been, Austin got us good last year. Hopefully, like I said, especially on the girls side, hopefully the girls, some of the San Antonio area, move on beyond the second round and get to the third, and hopefully we have some representatives in the regional tournament.
Yeah, I think that's the big question as far as San Antonio goes, right? Is the girls' side, can a girls team break through, right? Can they break through into that regional final and challenge for a state tournament berth? I think that's the big one here. That's really the big question. Not as much on the boys' side, only because Lee just accomplished that last year at the 6A level, but now you have you've kind of have a changing of the guard there with Reagan. With the Reagan boys, same district, of course, 28 6A, because that's a just a behemoth of a district. But now all eyes switch to Reagan on the boys' side. Is can
Harlan
they
too.
and Harlan, and then you got Harlan out there. That's what I was going to get at. So, and are they on a collision course, right, in that regional final? Because obviously, you're going to have squads like Vandergrift, and you're going to have squads like Lake Travis, who are going to have something to say about that, and who are also playing very well. So Region 4 at the 6A level on the boys' side will be interesting, will be fun. It'll be drama filled for sure, and we'll be here to cover it. So. We'll be coming back next week with episode 4 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. Most likely either sometime the weekend, either Saturday night around this time, or if not, sometime early Sunday. We just have to contend. I don't know if the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable will be having a 7 a.m. breakfast podcast again or not. So I know I kid Harry about that. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Great stuff. Where can we find you, Coach, for our listeners here? Where can we find you? And where can they find also the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable?
Yeah, they can find us on Twitter. They're going to also find us on Facebook. That's where we do our live streams. So if you want to check out our live streams, we have, the live stream games that we did this past season. Also, we're on YouTube too as well. And then also, if you go to we do have a new webpage, San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, .com. You can click on the links there to view or listen to our podcasts through Spotify and any other format that they have. Harry has listed on there, so they can check out all the episodes we have. And like I said, hopefully we'll put some videos on there. And then we got some other ideas coming up, hopefully for the future, especially with SAFC coming up. I know they have a big game tomorrow, El Clasico, the South Texas Clasico with the RGV. RGV brisket. Sorry, RGV, but it's the right doing. They're gonna play tomorrow on Sunday, and then
what time is that SAFC match tomorrow again?
7 o'clock, I think, 6 or 7 o'clock.
So is it gonna be? Oh, it's gonna clash with the U.S. match, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I got to look at that again. I don't know why I was thinking it was a little earlier, like 5.
Yeah, I think it's. Let me see. I have the schedule here.
I got to double check it. I'm a season ticket member. I should know that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they're playing. Let me see here. They're playing at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. So I'm gonna have to get the double screen on my tablet, and then also the TV to watch the Mexico game at 6 o'clock against Honduras.
So they got the 6. They got the 6 o'clock game.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So I think that US might have the later game. I think, unless they're playing a little bit earlier beforehand. Though. But yeah, but those points are on the line because US has to win. So does Mexico if they go to clinch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And they should. They should, because Mexico has who? Is it
Honduras? I think no. Yeah, but Honduras has been on the tailspin. They've been on like a downward spiral. I think they've already thrown in the towel.
Could be. Yeah. Could be. Who's playing? So is that It's Costa Rica that must be playing El Salvador then, right? Tomorrow, I think.
Well, they're playing. Is it U.S. and Panama, right?
No, I'm talking about Costa Rica. I think someone that affects the U.S. is playing El Salvador. I think it's
Costa Rica.
I think it's Costa Rica. Yeah. So, all right. That's why I thought it was Mexico initially, but sounds great. Again, for our listeners, for our supporters, thank you for everything. Thank you. You're the reason why we do it. This is our special time. This is our holiday season, right? We love it. It's great. Again, we'll be coming to you every week after set number of rounds here in the playoffs, leading up all the way through the state tournament and the state final at Birkelbach Field there in Georgetown. So please stay with us. Send us any questions you might have, DMs. Greatly appreciated. You can find us, the 50/50 podcast, on Twitter at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. So, and you can also find all of our again, as I've been mentioning briefly because people have been asking, all of our previous episodes have all been archived and uploaded onto on the audio format as well. So you can find us on all the major platforms. Just look up the 50/50 podcast, and you'll be able to find us there. So please, if you can, subscribe, follow, give us some reviews, hopefully some good ones, but if you don't like what you hear, hey, be honest as well. But obviously the good ones, we prefer the good ones because that kind of takes us up the chart and more people can get access to us. So Coach, thanks. This has been awesome. Appreciate you. And again, we'll be coming back to you probably most likely this time next Saturday night, where we'll look back at the area round and the regional quarterfinal round, and then we'll look ahead to the regional tournaments. So until the next time, thank you again for everybody for your support and for listening. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.